This picture is at McIntyre Farms with Gabe and Ray, two of the guys that really helped create the genesis of the Carbon Summit. And they weren't too keen on carbon right away because it always has that negative connotation that's associated with it. You know, but like we said, we explained that carbon is the glue that holds us together. So with that, I'd like to bring up Shelly to help me give Ray the proper introduction.
Super excited about Ray Archuleta. You're going to love him. He is a world-renowned, highly esteemed social scientist. He has over 30 years' experience as a soil conservationist, water quality specialist, and conservation agronomist. I haven't had enough coffee yet. This guy is so packed full of information. We hope you'll pay attention. I know you love this man.
I actually do really love Ray. I call him Uncle Ray for his charisma, his tenacity, just passion. And we forgot he's a rancher in Missouri. Oh. And that's a very important distinguisher. I think it's most important that he is actually cultivating and working the land and teaching hundreds and thousands of other farmers and ranchers across the nation right now. So let's give a huge round of applause for Ray Archuleta.
Good morning. It's great to be here. I want to tell you about an amazing journey that I've had, a journey of hope. I'm going to talk to you about regenerative agriculture, a new type of agriculture that is a healing agriculture. But like most stories of hope, sometimes they start in the ashes of failure. I'm going to share with you my years and years of failure as a conservationist. And I'm going to tell you how I had an epiphany and how my life completely changed when I finally understood how to farm like nature. Let me show you through a pictorial journey of how I learned about regenerative agriculture. I have been working over 32 years with the Soil Conservation Service. It was once called Soil Conservation Service. Now it's called the Natural Resource Conservation Service. Look what has happened in the last 86 years. Soil Conservation Service, now NRCS, started 86 years ago. And it was started because of this problem here. Massive wind erosion, soil degradation. As you can see in this picture, in 2014, that was Colorado. And if you look at April 14, 1935, ladies and gentlemen, look at the color of the soil. That is an organic system. There was no pesticides, no herbicides during that time. But why do we have such massive soil degradation, even if you can call it an organic system, no chemicals? This is still occurring, as you can see in this small video of this small town in Texas, June 2019. How can this be that we're having this problem being taught in some of the best universities in the world, some of the best land-grant colleges? We have spent billions and billions of dollars, and yet this is still a problem, not only nationally, but globally. Even today, March 2021, this is still happening. And yet the majority of American people do not understand this is occurring during our watch. Here, I had spent many, many years as a conservationist, working in 4 or 5 states. The product of my education, the way I looked at the natural ecosystem and how I reduce things into tools and practices. This picture shows you to this day that a majority of our land is still uncovered. We use these, what I call diaper practices, filter strips, wetlands, windbreaks. These are all cool practices. But in isolation, they are just diapers. The only practice, or the only thing that is building soil right now, is the filter strips, grass and the wetland restorations, anything that is green. I ask you, why are the only things that are green at the edge of the field? Why isn't the whole field covered? Why isn't the whole field a buffer strip? Why isn't it green through the whole country? From the California all the way to North Carolina, it should be all covered. The only thing that is building soil in that picture is where there is a living plant. Flying to New Jersey, I remember I was flying to New Jersey ready to teach soil health, and here's what I observed. I was sitting in the airplane, and I was in the window seat, and I thought of this. Wow, our lakes and rivers are filled with nutrient and conservation plans, but not crystal clear with understanding. Why did I write that? Please keep in mind, our agency for many, many years said, we are a planning agency. I differ. We are not a planning agency. We are an agency that actually is supposed to facilitate understanding how our ecosystems work. Please don't misunderstand. I'm all about a plan. Data has shown scientifically, those who have a plan tend to implement more than others who do not have a plan. But my point is, the nutrient and conservation plan is not the goal. It is understanding. Think about our waterways as you fly through the whole planet. This is what we see. Our lakes and rivers are filled with these plants, but yet not being healed. I began to realize, as this global warming scenario came out, and we heard more and more in the news, and as I was learning and traveling in every state, millions of miles put on my vehicle and flying and being from state to state, I realized global warming is the effect. What really is happening is global ignorance and global disconnectedness. Our people are ignorant on how our soil works and how our planet works. I, too, was very ignorant about that. The reality is, ladies and gentlemen, our soils are naked, hungry, thirsty, and running a fever. When you drive from California all the way to North Carolina, during the fall and the early spring, the soil is naked, hungry, thirsty, and running a fever. It's not just our country, but this is happening globally. Think about all the sensible heat that is coming off that soil surface, the latent heat. Most people don't understand it is the living plant that draws in the moisture. When you have a bare ground, it pushes the moisture away. You cannot have climate without soil and a living plant. It is critical to understand that. Soil temperatures get up to 150.8 degrees. This is happening on a global scale. Look at the amount of land surface that is bare and naked and hungry and thirsty. Do we not think that is affecting our climate? It is. We talk about CO2, but it's also the water vapor on the top of the soil and the land. But that can only come from plants evapotranspiring. Look at the large tracts of land that is getting desertified. Something that was recently shocking to me, I came to recent research that they were showing in archaeology that Saudi Arabia was once green. It was once vegetated. It had rivers and lakes. How do they know this? They found buried elephant tusks. It is amazing what has happened to our land. Could the real problem be it is us? It's the way we think that is causing this massive desertification. Not only is that a problem, but recently we are having more and more suicides happening in rural America. And I pondered, I said, look, how can that be? How can one of the most important jobs as a rancher and farmer, nothing more intimate than being a steward in God's creation, are we having such large rates of suicide? The real issue is producers have no hope. They have massive debt. They work year after year, and they're maintaining huge amounts of infrastructure. Please keep in mind, when I was a government employee, I drove to my work. They provided the laptop. They provided the space. What infrastructure did I have to maintain? Most people do not understand. Ranchers and farmers maintain huge amounts of infrastructure. I tell landowners, you are the poorest millionaires that I know of. Why is this happening? I begin to discover that a lot of producers were taught, like I was, from generation to generation at the universities. They never taught us the real goal, that the goal of agriculture was to mimic nature. It was built on the wrong premise. This is what's occurring. This is a beautiful data from Canada, which mirrors the United States. Look at 1926. Even since 1926, landowners were not making income. A lot of their income went to inputs, to chemical fertilizer, to herbicides. All these inputs of maintaining equipment and infrastructure. This is still occurring. Where is the wealth going to? We have a dying of America. As I drive, it is not uncommon to see little towns that have absolutely financially desiccated. But not only do they financially desiccate, but socially, culturally, and spiritually desiccate. The wealth of the land is now going to corporate America, to the tool makers. Am I opposed to corporate America? No. Please don't misunderstand. The wealth and the blessings of the land should flow through the farmer and rancher, then go to the local store, then to the local community, to the local school district. The land, the blessing of the land should flow through them first. Why is this occurring? It is occurring because of this. I realize it is the way we look at the world. It is our mindset. I picked up the wrong filters. I picked up the filters from my school, from my uncle, my aunt, who were ranching, from generations of being taught in the social construct at your local community. I was taught the wrong goal. See, ladies and gentlemen, the real mindset, the correct mindset, is to emulate and to mimic nature. I was not taught that. Why are some producers more effective than others? As I've been around hundreds and thousands of landowners, thousands of producers, what delineates the most effective landowner? Not only does he make plenty of money, but he's restoring the land. It is right here, the mindset. The mindset is everything. Mindset is the determination to never give up. Unless you have a mindset that you are determined, that you're willing to learn, willing to think, if you're not willing to have that mindset, you will never pick up the skills. And you will never learn the difference between tools, skills. Why do many people fail down this regenerative path? Mindset. With the right attitude. It is everything. We believe that if you have the right mindset, the right thought process, the right filters, the right framework, and the right heart and attitude, your life will change. That happened to me. It happened to me years back, reading Holistic Management by Ellen Savory and coming to Gabe Brown's Ranch. I have shifted the way I look at the world. Regenerative agriculture, what is it? I hear many, many people talk about regenerative agriculture. This is my definition of regenerative agriculture. After years and years of failure, being around all kinds of types of farmers and ranchers, this is my definition. Regenerative agriculture is a journey. It's a journey of the renewal of the human heart and mind. Please understand, regeneration is renewal. Our living ecosystems, our bodies renew daily. Our minds should always renew in more understanding and more wisdom. It is not a system of practices. Continuing with my definition, it is a transformative framework of thinking and consciousness that emulates nature's intelligent designs, its patterns, its biological systems. Simply said, our goal is to emulate nature, to mimic it. And the last part of my definition, it's an agriculture that is not only productive, but it's beautiful. It is an emblem of health and life, no matter what the size or the scale. Look at the beauty. Our mind and our hearts can quickly see it. We were born and designed to appreciate beauty. The elegance of the design. It is so easy to see. Please keep in mind, regenerative agriculture is not just a system of practices. It's much deeper than that. It's deep into your DNA, the way you think, it's your attitude. And there's no label that you can put on it. It is an agriculture of relationship and love towards the natural system and your fellow human being. Now, I'm going to teach you 3 basic concepts that I want you to really catch on. This is the 3 basic things that I did not understand, and I see a common pattern from ranchers and farmers throughout the globe. First one, the soil is absolutely alive. If you do not get that, you will not change your farm and operation. Number 2, all is one. Ecology teaches all is one. Quantum physics teaches all is one. Theology teaches all is one. I will show you the practical ways of understanding oneness. In fact, all of us are connected, whether you like it or not. One. The other one, this is the goal. Mimic nature. It is not carbon, it's not tools, it's not practices, it's not planning. Mimic nature. That's the goal. Now, let's start off with this. This is incredibly important because all of us that went to college or went to high school or grade school, we were all recipients of reductionist science. Please understand this. We tend to look at things in silo. When I went to college, the agronomy, the soil department, the entomology, the ecology department, silo, brutal. You do not do that with biological systems. I love Masanobu Fukuoka. He says, an object seen in isolation from the whole is not the real thing. When you go to a doctor, what does a doctor do the first thing? Well, we need to send you to a lung specialist, a heart specialist. They isolate you. They need to see you as a collective whole. You're not just a heart. You're just not a toe. You're a collective whole. Let me show you practically what happens when you don't see the whole picture. Farmers and ranchers tell me, Ray, no-till cover crops don't work here because it's too cold. They tell me it's too hot. They also tell me it's too stinking wet. For every time I hear that, isolation, not seeing the collective whole, what do all those ecoregions have in common? We are doing no-till in North Dakota and Canada. They're doing it in Afghanistan. They are doing it in the humid South. What do all those ecoregions have in common? Life, biology, microbes. Look at the whole. Let me tell you the 4 ecosystems that have to happen in every one of those regions. When I walk on a farm and operation, I want to see all those 4 ecosystem processes occurring in every square foot of your ranch and farm. The first one, the most very powerful, is capturing sun, turning light energy into chemical energy, turning it into carbon molecules, which runs the planet. Then without living plants, you cannot have a water cycle. Let's make it very clear. No plants, no water cycle. Who do you think attracts the rain? Living plants. 40% of our rain comes from inland, from plants evapotranspiring. Biology ends with biology. This is a living planet. Then the nutrient cycle. No water in the soil, no nutrient cycling. And then the last one is diversity of organisms. I call diversity of organisms the software of the planet. The rest of it's the hardware. Every organism transfers information. Every little insect, every cow, every animal, everything, that's the software that keeps this planet alive. Every organism counts. DNA, that's how it keeps this planet from being a rock. Life, diversity. Without diversity, there is no water cycle. There is no capturing sun. None of it works. All of it's connected. What's the difference between Earth and Mars? Life. There is no planet B. This is what keeps it and makes an incredible distinction between Mars. Organisms, diverse organisms. Now, this is what I learned from a researcher. The strongest geological force on the planet is life itself. How many have actually seen a picture like that? How in the world does that tree live in that such compacted surface? What do farmers do for compaction? They till it up. How does that plant survive? It builds relationship with arbuscular mycorrhizae fungi. Excrete powerful enzymes, break rock. They excrete CO2, carbonic acids. They have weak acids in the root. Life is powerful. So what is the most powerful tool that a farmer and rancher can put on their operation? A living plant. Powerful. Look at this picture from Australia. You think your soil sucks? How would you like to have that? A geological salt bed of seabed of salt. How come it's dark in the top? Life. It is transformative. It is powerful. So, soil is alive. Very critical to understand. So when you go out there and run your disc, when you spray too much, this is what you're working the demise of. A living ecosystem. That is a water bear. Lives in a soil column. You are dealing with a living ecosystem, the most complex ecosystem in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. Why is that soil so active? No-till, cover crops, grazing animals. The flow of carbon. Without these organisms, there would be no life on the planet, period. It is very critical to understand this. Now, the next one. Understanding relationship, connectedness. This is so blasted critical. Because if you do not understand that everything's connected, you're going to misuse your tools and you're going to cause disconnectedness and cost you money. Ecology is about relationship. I remember when I used the word ecology one time in Kentucky, and they said to me, "Ray, I like your talk, but you use that word ecology. That's a hippie word. I said, no. Ecology means life, the study of the house, eco, connectedness, relationship. Look at the science here. Which science talks about relationship? Look at this, the picture on the left. Treats the soil like a mineral matrix of no life. The farmer on the right is nurturing, feeding it, has relationship. Oh, both of these have science. But which is the right science? Look at this one. Picture on the left shows treating nature like a machine. It's all about yield and output. That's what I was taught. The picture on the right, relationship. Allowing the pigs to express their pigness. Allowing cows to express their cowness. You know what I love about that? The more you do that, the less inputs you use. How about this? Same thing. Please don't misunderstand me. Who created the system on the left? We all did. We wanted cheap food. We told farmers and ranchers, get bigger or get out. Our agency taught this. Our land grant taught this. All of us as a collective whole have done this. But there's a transition going. There is a transition I call agroecology, where you take this system and let it become infused with more ecology. This is exciting. It is occurring. This is what I missed out in college, folks, right here. They never told me about soil ecology. It's the organisms on top of the surface. Look on the right. That is the nutrient cycle. So the more you till it, the more you bury it, the more you spray it, the more you hurt nutrient cycling, the more you affect the water cycle. I missed the elegance and the beauty of that ecosystem. Look at the lines. Look at the connectedness. Every organism serves purpose. So the more I keep it intact, the less fertilizer, the less chemicals I need to purchase. The more my water cycle works. The more we build and bring the carbon into the soil. It is these living organisms that I missed in my training. Oneness. Plant and soil are one. I remember the first time I saw that and I read a research paper and I come out screaming at that out of my bedroom and I tell my wife, the plant and soil are one. She looked at me and she goes, I cannot believe I married you. Are you disturbed? I said, think of the profoundness, folks. Without plant, no soil biology. No plant, no soil biology, you have geology. The most important thing a rancher or a farmer can do is cover the soil and feed it and make it one again. Most critical thing you can do in your operation. Why? Right here. This is what Carbon Summit is about. It is about that root leaking hundreds and thousands of compounds, turning sun into liquid sun, feeding all those myriad of organisms. And what do those organisms do? They multiply. The fungi and the organisms, they excrete powerful enzymes, and they're the ones that bring the zinc, the chromium, and all the minerals out of the rock, and the other trace minerals. And the plant says, I'll give you liquid sun, you give me minerals. And then I can carry my function, and then the animal eats it. And then we eat both, and then we become healthy. They're intimately connected. But this is the reality of our country. In the spring, I can drive from California all the way to North Carolina, and this is the picture on the left. Spilling sun, not capturing nutrients. Look at the picture in Pennsylvania. Why isn't our whole country covered in the spring? feeding microbes. Which farmer is making money? Who's taking care of their soil? The farm on the left is leaking nutrients, spilling sun. The farm on the left runs on ancient sunlight, diesel, fertilizer, chemicals. The farm on the right is starting to run on new sunlight. This is the reality of what's happening. I call it death by tools. Because we don't have an understanding, we don't understand relationship. So here's what happens. It's the way we till. Excessive tillage, excessive haying, excessive overgrazing, excessive applying too much fungicides and insecticides. Treating the soil that it's not alive. Death by tools. I got to get a bigger tractor. Spend millions and millions of dollars in chemical inputs every year and going broke. Look at the difference in the two soils. The soil on the left was taken from the fence row. That other soil, a couple of feet from the field. That is what happens with excessive use of your tools. When you don't have the understanding. I can walk on any farm in operation with a shovel, and I can tell you where you're at. The farm on the left, that soil on the left is a natural system. The farm on the right, that little field right to the right, is how we understand the soil and how we treat it. It's also how we deal with our grazing animals. Look what happens when you just leave the cow out there and they do whatever they want and you don't move them like buffalo. Continuous grazing. Look at the infiltration rate and look what happens when you mimic the buffalo. Look at the color of the soil. Look at the humic colors. Notice the aggregation. It makes a big difference the way you manage your animals. This is a great model of NASA showing CO2. Now look where I did a little square and look at the date. That is April 16th. That square shows the USA. The red color shows CO2. What are we doing in the early spring throughout the northern hemisphere? Tillage. See, when you till the soil, you wake up bacteria, they eat the carbon in the soil, and they give it off as CO2. Huge plume. Look what happens as soon as the crop grows. 3 months later. Who'd have thought that our planet is so sensitive, so alive, and so responsive? Pretty amazing. Can you imagine if we would reduce the tillage? It would be huge. Oop, what's this? That ain't mine. Oh, okay, here we go. I don't know where that came out. Okay, so what is the goal? This is the goal. I've heard many people say, well, a lot of cultures, a lot of races, some particular races have been worse than others. I'm here to tell you all of mankind have been destructive to the planet. Please keep in mind, why am I putting an ancient scripture from the Bible up here? Thousands of years ago, we knew what the goal was. Look at the Bible. Biomimicry. Ask the beast, and they will teach you. Observation ecology was in the ancient scriptures. Many of the races knew about regenerative agriculture. It is us who have forgotten recently. It is not a new concept. It goes to all races have known about regenerative agriculture. Biomimicry. Who'd have thought mimic life would be in the Bible? Biomimicry Institute. If you ever get a chance, go into that website. Velcro was gone by mimicking the cocklebur. Airplane. Biomimicry. Mimic the plane. We are doing biomimicry in our cropping system because we're emulating the prairie and the forest. The architecture. We want our farm to look just like the prairie and forest. How do we do that? Right here, we're mimicking the architecture on top and the architecture on the bottom. And it looks like this. that is a multi-species cover crop. I want to see millions and millions of acres that look like this. How are we doing this? Farmers, big farmers are doing this. When I showed this picture, they said, oh my God, that is a cancer machine to the organic group. But when I told them, I said, that cancer machine drops cover crop seed on standing corn. And you can see the whole room going, oh, so excited. Dropping cover crop seed so that when you harvest your corn, your cover crop comes up. Because what's the first thing farmers tell me? Well, I don't have enough time. No, you don't understand. The soil eats through a living plant. This is what we're doing now. We're turning corn and soybeans into standing covers throughout the U.S. We are doing biomimicry in a huge way. This is spreading throughout the United States, in Europe. Planting corn and soybeans, tracking sun to the last minute, feeding monkeys. And if you roll that cover crop down, you can even do it without herbicide. That is cotton coming out of it. We're doing organic corn, organic soybean, organic cotton. We're also changing the way we do our orchards. Going to college in New Mexico State, Las Cruces, this is the way we were taught. You leave the ground bare because you don't want any vegetation because why? It's going to compete with the trees. Wrong. We are now growing covers and they collaborate with the fungi. Now we save water. We keep the temperature cool. They collaborate. We have beneficial insects. We stabilize our yields. Synergy, biomimicry. Now, let me show you what we did in our grazing, which is absolutely amazing. Now, we use cattle to regenerate the land. I have heard many, many groups say cattle are the scourge. It is not the cow, it's the how. We're the problem. It was never the cow. So as we lost the bison, what can we do to replace it and bring soil fertility and regenerate our prairies, our deserts? Cattle. Bringing in herbivores. Let me show you what happens when we mimic the migratory bison and the buffalo. 1961, I was born in 1961. This is the campus, at the New Mexico State. I never saw that at New Mexico State. This is what I saw. That's how it looks now. This is the northern part of New Mexico. That used to be a pine forest. The Anasazi Indians, which I'm probably part of, being there for so long, they took too many pine trees, made too big of a city, drought, the system collapsed. All of us have done this. This is when, if you go drive, this is what you see now. That used to be a pine forest. Let me tell you what happened to me that was the most exciting thing that ever happened to me in my life. I got to go to Chihuahua, Mexico 3 years ago. And it was the most important thing that ever happened to me. Because when I drive from Missouri to New Mexico to go see my parents, and I would say, dear Lord, how in the world are we going to heal all that desert? From Oklahoma to Amarillo to New Mexico, I just want to cry. How are we going to heal it? It was when I went to Chihuahua, Mexico, and watched some of the best grazers in the world. Jesus Almeida, you'll see him right there. He is a mentor. He's a leader. Gabe Brown. And then Alejandro Carrillos, who is a consultant with us. But these guys, and then Juan Pablo on the other side. These men taught me that we can heal the land. Look at Alejandro's mindset. We need to mimic what nature does, not fight nature. They have no cost share. They get no government help. They group together and they build each other. Let me show you what happened. Look how far the ranch is in the Chihuahuan Desert. If anybody's been to the Chihuahuan Desert, 6 to 11 inches, it is hot. It is so hot you can throw an egg on the sidewalk. When I was going to college in New Mexico State, it would cook. Very little rain. How in the world are we going to restore that? Let me give you some ecological context. That is a picture Alejandro showed me about the Apaches. Look at the grass. It was a prairie. I couldn't believe that. But let me show you what they have been able to do. First, let me show you the problem. New Mexico looks like this. Nevada looks like this. California looks like this. All the western states look like this. Idaho looks like this. Oregon looks like this. I know. I worked here. Look at the erosion with only 6 inches of rain. Look what they have been able to do. Let's watch. Put the volume up, please. Don't hear it.
Chihuahuan Desert,
Louder.
the largest desert of North America. Once lush grasslands supporting bison, antelope, sheep, golden eagle, and prairie dogs. Nowadays unproductive, eroded, lifeless land. There is no water on site. There is no life on site. There is no hope on site. But there is something going on right in the middle of the desert. A few determined to green the desert to a large scale. Yes, they are the heroes of yesterday, the vaqueros or cowboys, once legendary for taming the wild. Nowadays are best allies to get things back on track. They are working in sync with Mother Nature, moving cattle every day using fences and water points, mimicking the migratory patterns of bison decades ago. As cattle moves, they fertilize and work the soil so life can come back once rain hits the ground. This transformation is already there, even if there are islands of grass across on the vast Chihuahuan Desert. We can replicate these successful experiences. We can fix the water cycle. We can cool this arid environment. We can create habitat for wildlife. We can keep people on the land. We are in. We are cool. We are ranchers willing to tackle desertification.
Isn't that amazing? I got to see that with my own eyes. And when I came back, you know what I thought? I don't want to hear no excuses from anybody. If we can do that in a brittle environment with very little rain, we can heal this planet. It gets so frustrating when I hear so much ignorance. Ignorance has a big mouth, saying cows are the problem. We cannot heal the land without cows. What do cows do? They transport seed on their hide through their manure. They break up the crust with their hoofs. They grab that grass and put saliva and biology. They poop and they urinate and they stimulate nutrient cycling. This is why you cannot have a separation of animal and plant. It's a lack of understanding because they feed the organisms. Look at that cow pie on the desert. They are an incredible vat of life coming out on the other end. We can change the deserts, and I saw it happening in a biblical proportion. I saw the book of Isaiah, where the deserts will become green and become the prairies that they were. We can do this. Look at Alejandro's dad, 87 years old. Look at that grass that was not planted. Cattle, bringing the seedbed, ecological memory, using understanding, mimicking the natural system. Rick Clark, Indiana. Because people tell me, he says, well, Ray, it's all pie in the sky. You can't make money on regenerative ag. Really? This is Rick Clark in Indiana. 7,000 acres of organic no-till. Look what he has done in his journey. Ever since he got rid of all the inputs on 7,000 acres. Look at the fuel, eliminating the fuel costs. No more nitrogen. No more potash. No more phosphorus. No more chemicals. Over $670,000 to $800,000 savings on 7,000 acres every year. Now I can bring my son and the daughter into the operation. I hear critique about regenerative agriculture, but Ray, we got to feed the world. I hear that all the time, throw it in my face. You got to feed the world. Really? 70% of the world is fed with 13 acres and below. Look at the Darvis family from Pasadena. They grow over 6,000 pounds of vegetables on 1/10 of an acre in their subdivision. 6,000 pounds. They make $40,000 a year on their lawn. Does it matter how we do business? It matters. I see a generation coming that are demanding, let thy food be thy medicine. It matters how we do business. The way we farm and the way the Creator farms. Look at the other side. Nutrient density matters. My sister is a cancer nurse, and she's seen a huge influx of cancer coming in. Folks, that's not normal. We were designed to be healthy. It matters how you do business. Look at the organic egg on the left, fed organic feed. Look at Gabe's egg when they actually pasture and go out there and get the bugs and harvest life and get the insects and what we pay for. I told you, not only it has to be healthy, but it has to be beautiful. You can tell, even a 5th grader can tell. Look at Luna Blanca farm in Argentina. Look at the diversity they do. Beauty. Look at that. Grazing system, pasture system within a orchard. Look at the functionality, running sheep and chickens among that. That is wholeness. That is connectedness. That is regenerative agriculture, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of us think that technology will save us. I'm sorry, it will not. Einstein did it beautifully. He said, I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots. We think that science is going to fix our global warming issue. The ship is sinking. Well, let's research it in case it's really not a ship that's sinking. It is sinking. It's simple. Cover the soil. Don't make it too complex. Mimic the natural system. Oops. There we go. So, wrapping it up pretty close here. It is amazing to me that farmers and ranchers will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment, but they will not come to a 3-day school on learning how to mimic nature. Gabe Brown and I were co-founders to open the Soil Health Academy. Why? For this very reason right here you see in the slide. If you want to make small changes, change how you do things. But if you want to make major changes, change the way you see things. And save yourself millions and millions of dollars and heartache. I spent the first 15 years of my career giving bad advice. Now my job is to bring healing to the planet because I changed the way I see things. Please understand, your farm, your ranch, our planet is a reflection of us. I look at the land, it reflects us. That's the brutal reality. It is not global warming. It's global detachment, global ignorance. So I have asked you, I told you 3 things. I'm going to do a call of action here. What can we do? First thing I want you to think about, understand that the soil is absolutely alive and teach others that the soil is alive. Right now we have grade schools teaching it's a growing medium. Grade school still teaching that. Understand connectedness and relationship. Please understand with that relationship that everyone's connected in here. Learn the humility to approach somebody carefully, that you're connected. They have to go through a paradigm shift. I went through a paradigm shift. Be careful that you don't force that paradigm shift. Number 3, mimic the natural system. Mimic life. That is the goal. And I'll leave you with the last thing that I think that I really want us to push. Folks, if we can do one thing, being in the federal government, going to Washington, D.C., I know that humans have an incredible way to making things complex. The more complex, the more we screw it up. Let's keep it to one simple thing. I don't care if you call it carbon, I don't care what you call it. Let's do this one thing. If we as a people committed to do this one thing, let's make the U.S. green again. Let's cover the soil. Even if you're still tilling, even if you're still spraying, cover the soil. If I could drive from California to North Carolina and it's covered in the spring, oh my gosh, do you know what we have done as a people? We have done the biggest thing we can do for climate, for water quality, for human health. That is the beginning of regeneration. It is a beginning and a renewal of life. Jason, I want to thank you for having me. Let's go make America green. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Ray.